It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it, caught, touchdown, did he get it?
Welcome on back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here. Eric Frandsen as well on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan, streaming online at 1069thefan.com. You can find us on our podcast feed on 1069thefan.com or on the 1069 The Fan mobile app, or pretty much wherever you're able to get your podcasts. You can find us in Spotify, Apple Play, or Apple, whatever it's called, and a bunch of different other places. But however you want to listen, whether you're listening to us live on the radio, on the app, online, or whether you're listening to our podcast feed after we love, however you want to listen. And if you want to join the show via the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. A lot to go over today. We talked about the introduction of Utah State's next athletics director, Cameron Walker, the 13th, and I've never managed to find a definitive list of all the athletics directors. I know a few of them. I know a few of them going back to the roughly 2000s. I know then there was Rod Tueller in the 80s, but I don't know between him and Hartwell who they all were. I know one. I don't even know if athletic director is the proper title because we're talking 1901. But the man, the myth, the legend, Fred Mysterious Walker.
Ooh.
So another Walker in there. Again, I don't know if
keep him away.
Yeah, it's he earned the nickname Mysterious Walker after he left Utah State, though. Interesting character that. Played baseball. And I think he coached baseball and was maybe technically what might qualify as athletic director. Again, we're talking the first 10 years of Utah State history. So
it circles back. Cam Walker played baseball.
Yeah, that's true.
He was. And he talked to us. You heard it last hour, but he talked a little bit about how he was coaching baseball, and then was that in the press conference?
I think it was in the press conference where he talked about that.
There was a question about his becoming a lawyer, getting his law degree, and how somebody asked him if he says, "You look miserable as an assistant coach. Have you ever thought about getting into administration for athletics?" And that was kind of what started him. But anyway. It was fun. I thought it was really informative. Again, I got to give Sean Harrison credit for this. But he said there was definitely a different vibe today compared to a few years ago. Just here's a guy with a breadth of experience. He understands the local culture as well. But he seems like he is a great fit for Utah State for a lot of reasons. And excited about what that future now entails for Utah State athletics moving forward in a very important transition period, moving into the Pac-12, but also just how college athletics is transitioning and how revenue is generated and also how it's shared with the athletes.
Yeah, this transition has as much chance to be impactful as that kind of early 2010s was. Kind of starting in maybe 2009. But where basketball had been good, but turning things around in football and helping Utah State get into the Mountain West, partially because of that turnaround in football, and then doing really well, quickly becoming a peer to the top teams in the conference in both football and basketball, and that was something that was really important for making Utah State not just some bottom feeder team in a bottom feeder conference. They're a team that, we talked about this when they moved to the Pac-12. They used to always be the program that was left behind when the Skyline collapsed, left behind in the Big West and the WAC, and finally getting into the Mountain West. And then whereas before they were getting passed over by Nevada and some of these other schools, now they're joining in making that move up as opposed to being left behind. But now we reach another critical point where you can't just rest on your laurels and be, all right, we're in the Pac-12. This is where we're going to be. This is how things are now. And we're going to, try and just do what we can and accept our place in the hierarchy. No, you keep trying to build. And you may never chase that goal. You may never catch the Joneses. Utah State's $150 million behind the budgets of these highest institutions. But there's always room to grow. And as I think Cam Walker said during our media availability, if you're not growing, somebody's passing you. So they've got to keep growing. They've done a good job in growing. They've increased their budget. They've increased their revenue over these last even 3-4 years. And so find sustainable ways to grow. And if they can ace this transition into the Pac-12, become a top team in the Pac-12 in football and basketball and the money-making sports, and compete in every sport as well, then suddenly you become, arguably the best group of 6, school program in the nation. And I don't know if the Power Four is ever going to expand again from what it is, but you never know what's going to happen, and you make yourself as prepared as you can be. And so Utah State, if they can ace this transition, they can put themselves in a position where they've never really been, where they become the most attractive option, or the most attractive program in a conference or in a geographical area.
Right. And you know what? There's going to be more shakeup in about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, when some of these media rights deals or in conference agreements and college football playoff stuff get renewed, it's going to get pretty crazy again.
So you want to be, how is Utah State positioned in all of this? Because you look at what are the stories coming out about UCLA right now. Stanford and Cal, they don't seem to be loving being in the ACC and how much travel they have to do. Now, there is a massive gap in what the conference is paying those institutions through their media rights deals compared to what the Pac-12 is looking like. But you want to be in a position where you're competing. You probably, Utah State's going to have to punch above its weight, which they have a lot of experience doing. But they need to put themselves in a position where they're competitive, so that when you're looking at how does the pie get divided, is Utah State part of those discussions about being a part of the allocation, or do they get left out? They might be smaller in their fan base, in their what their resources look like, but we know that when they're on the schedule, it's a good competitive program that doesn't drag us down. And that's where Utah State has to continue to try to perform. And that's what's going to be interesting to see how Cam Walker helps Utah State in that transition. And he talks about excellence, that anything that they compete in, that they're not just there to check a box or say that we're there. He wants a high standard of competitive excellence at Utah State.
Yeah, and you talk about the things that could happen in the next 4 or 5 years. What happens if the ACC collapses? What do they do? If they experience a collapse on par with what the Pac-12 had, and UCLA's not leaving the Big Ten, but Stanford, Cal, they potentially get isolated. That's something you can maybe pounce on. What happens if if we're talking about UCLA not leaving the Big Ten, what happens if the Big Ten and SEC do some weird power grab where they take the best of their programs and form a new mega conference?
Right.
UCLA could get left out, in the dark, and suddenly they're looking for, an old home, I suppose. And so you would want Utah State to be part of what could be an even better Pac-12 down the line if, the cards go their way. There's ways that could go, it's not guaranteed the ACC is going to collapse in that way, that Stanford and Cal, because that seems to be kind of the pipe dream that everyone's having, is that Stanford, Cal are going to eventually rejoin the Pac-12. A lot has to go the Pac-12's way from that perspective for that kind of thing to happen.
Yeah, they may not love the travel, but they don't mind the paycheck that they receive from the media rights deal from being a member of that.
The athletes don't like the travel, but the administrators don't give a rat's behind about what the athletes have to go through because they're getting big checks.
Right, they're seeing that check come through from the conference.
So and that's what they care about, as opposed to the athletes' well-being and having to travel across the country to the Atlantic coast, from where some of these schools can almost literally see the Pacific coast.
Right. So
kind of crazy there. But speaking of, I guess, almost being on the Atlantic coast, Utah State, they're going to play Vanderbilt. I don't know how close that really is to the Atlantic coast.
Yeah, not really that close.
We're going east. Are they in the Eastern time zone? Or are they in Central?
Good. That's a really good question.
I think the line goes through Tennessee. Like, I think literally part of Tennessee is in the Central, and I think part of it is in the Eastern, which is weird. I always felt like the time zones should be on state borders.
They are in Central time.
They're in Central time? Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll be in the all-important Central time zone, Eric. Remember all the conversation the Pac-12 wanted to get into the Central time zone, which they did.
And you were also correct. The Eastern time zone, Central time zone, it does split Tennessee.
There you go. Yeah,
so where Nashville is, they are in Central time zone.
There we go. So I know we're going to talk about this on Roundtable later on KVNU Aggie game day, but I want to talk about the biggest keys for Utah State in, like, what do you do to get a win over a ranked SEC opponent? Like, if Utah State, let's travel into the future and or maybe we'll travel to the right universe where Utah State beats Vanderbilt. What does that game look like?
That's a really good question. And I think that defensively, so I've got some thoughts offensively and defensively for Utah State. Offensively, Utah State has to be efficient on first and second down. Because if you're behind the chains on third down, Vanderbilt's just going to do like everybody else has done, pin their ears back and come after Bryson Barnes. So how are they on first and second downs? Because that determines, can you keep your drive alive? Can you play complementary football? Can you give your defense a chance to rest on the sidelines? So how they perform on first and second downs is super key. And then defensively, can they contain Diego Pavia? I mean, that's a tall order for anybody. But he's a bit of a magician with what he does with his legs. The play is never really dead as long as the ball is in his hands, as long as he is upright. And even when he doesn't look like he's upright, he's still probably trying to make a play.
Yeah.
He's pretty magical in what he can do. So can Utah State contain him and not allow him to freestyle back there? If they can keep him in a closed pocket, he's a pretty good passer. But when he's out extending a play and kind of freestyling out there, that's usually when he's most dangerous.
Yeah, when you let Vanderbilt's players, potentially utilize there's a perceived athleticism advantage. If you let them flex that, they're going to beat up on the Aggies all day. Like Texas A&M eventually got to that where they let their quicker receivers gash the Aggies for a bunch of yards.
Yeah.
You don't want to let Vanderbilt do that. I don't think they quite have the receiving talent with, Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver are both two of the better receivers in the SEC at this point, especially Craver. With the production he's putting up in such a short time. So I think they still only played like 3 games, if I remember right. But Pavia, he's experienced. He's a veteran. Like Marcel Reed is in like his second year as a starter. The Aggies are facing what is still a young quarterback, young and developing. Pavia's on the opposite end. He's in his final year. I know there's some speculation about him trying to go for a final year.
So we think he's in his final year.
Well, he said he's in his final year. He came out publicly and said that. So this is his final year. But he's been going for quite a while. He got an extra year. He's played in JUCO. He's played in, the G6. He's played in the P5 now for a couple of years, or P4. So this is a guy with a lot of experience playing at all levels, including at the highest level in the SEC, and he's done really well. So we talk about containing, or you talk about containing Diego Pavia, and I mean, you did note this, but that's a lot easier said than done. And forcing him to become a passer, just a passer, like that's something you want to try and do. But even then, it's like, but they can still pass. It's not like turning a team into a one-dimensional and then like a weak version. Like, we talk about turning Air Force into a passing team. It's like make them pass. They're not good at that, even though they've actually kind of been good at it against both Utah State and Boise State. But it's like, that's the thing they're weak at. Make them one-dimensional in doing that. But, okay, make Vanderbilt one-dimensional in the pass game, and Pavia completes 73% of his passes for like 900 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. This is a guy who was still killing through the air. He threw for like 380 yards in their last game, where they had 380 passing yards as a team in their last game, where they beat, was it Georgia Southern?
Yeah, Georgia Southern.
They've been like 70-21. So they can put up points in a hurry. And they can do it in a bunch of different ways. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. And so there's just so much. But I think containing Pavia is the big thing. Don't let him make a bunch of crazy off-schedule plays. And then just turn him over. Like every upset, like the gasoline on the fire of upsets is turnovers.
Yeah.
Like look back, the one win Utah State has over Boise State in the last like 25 years. What did they do? They turned them over like 6 times. That ain't a coincidence. So getting those turnovers, setting up your offense like just about in the red zone to begin with, or scoring and not even have to worry about the offense get on the field. Like San Diego State, their win over Cal, a 3-0 team. San Diego State scored twice on defense to get that 34-0 win. So getting turnovers, I think, is maybe one of the biggest things as far as if Utah State wins, that will be something that happened in the game, is there will be like at least 3 turnovers created, if not 4 or 5. Because that might be what it's necessary to just keep Vanderbilt off the field on offense for as long as possible. Take away as many of their possessions as possible. Along with, again, a lot of things you said about just staying on the field with your own offense and being consistent there. We have a few texts on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 4446, helping me out with my geography. Time splits at South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Thank you, LDS Mission.
I actually just pulled up the map, and most of Tennessee is in the central time zone, but there is a sizable chunk in the eastern time zone.
See, I was in Tennessee earlier this year. We had a family reunion where we just went out to Tennessee. I have no family in Tennessee. We just went there.
Oh, that's cool. It also splits Kentucky in the middle.
That's true. And a year before, I was in Louisville, I believe. I was there for the PGA Championships that was held. That was the one where Scotty Scheffler got arrested.
Oh,
I was at that tournament. We were sitting there on the bus for like an hour and a half, being like, of course, obviously the main reason we were sitting there is because unfortunately somebody died. But yeah, I was like, then hearing that whole story is like, sheesh.
You and your family reunions.
Yeah, well, that wasn't a family reunion. That was me and my dad.
Oh,
just going. I have family in Kentucky. We use that as an excuse to go to the PGA Championships and visit my uncle, who's a professor at Murray State. So, a lot of fun.
There you go. Fun facts with the Walkers.
Yeah, fun facts with Walkers. That's another Walker who works at a university. I don't know. Go look up the staff. You can probably find him. He shares a name with a late famous actor. I'll let you guess. How many Walkers can you think of?
I can't think of any actors who were Walkers.
Maybe I'll
now.
tell you during the break. Why don't we go ahead and take that break? Because we're going to need a
Walker,
transition.
Texas Ranger?
No, not that one. Because that's, I suddenly forgot his name. Chuck Norris.
Yes, Chuck Norris. I know Walker is a fictional character.
Yeah. So let's take a break. Eric, you had a chance to talk to the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator of the Aggies yesterday after practice. We'll play those interviews coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric. Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Express tires for less.
Safety and comfort on the road are Express Tire's top priority. As a Point S team member, count on peace of mind with an inclusive warranty that includes nationwide protection. Any brand, any size, better pricing. No appointment necessary on the highway at 3200 North Main.
Express tires for less.
Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm.
With down-home country prices and big city selection.
E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm. No overhead, but lots of country charm. See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Feel the love at Mountain Valley Heating and Air. Need a new system? No problem at Mountain Valley Heating and Air. They can help you with both residential and commercial spaces, small homes to large businesses. Feel the love with Mountain Valley Heating and Air. You can find them at mtnvalleyhvac.com. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com. Going to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line before we jump into the interviews that Eric did with Kevin McGiven and Nick Howell. 5773. Jason forgot Chuck Norris's name. A Chuck Norris calendar will appear on Jason's desk soon. Dude, when I went on my mission, I went down to Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas, kind of a little bit of all those. So I'm Elder Walker. It's like Walker, Texas Ranger. All over the place. Though you could tell a generational gap because there are people who refer to Walker, Texas Ranger, and then there was Walkers from The Walking Dead, a show I'd never seen, but apparently they refer to the zombies as Walkers.
Walkers. Yeah.
So the younger ones would always refer to the Walking Dead, and then the older ones would do Walker, Texas Ranger. So there was this clean divide. But I mentioned an uncle who lives in Kentucky. Eric couldn't think of the actor. He shares a name with a famous actor. Eric couldn't get it. I told him during the break, but 5338 with the correct answer. It's Paul Walker.
Paul Walker.
I don't feel bad about doxing him. He ran for Congress, actually. So he's already put himself out in the public space.
Does he drive cars fast?
I don't think so, and I hope not. I'd prefer to have my uncle alive a little bit longer. No. But he does teach for a university that's called the Racers.
Oh.
But it's all this horse racing, though. Oh. Because it's Kentucky.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's fun there. So let's get to the interview that Eric did. Which one do you want? When do you want to do first? Offensive coordinator.
Let's start off with Kevin McGiven.
All right.
Offensive coordinator for Utah State. We're coming into the fifth game. So where do things stand for Utah State offensively? He's got a nickname that we've heard multiple times now. So I asked him about that. And at the end of his interview and the end of Nick Howell's interview, a fun discussion about fathers and sons and coaching. Let's leave it at that. Stay tuned. You want to hear it. Stick around. You want to hear that conversation.
All right, let's get into it right now. Kevin McGiven, Utah State offensive coordinator.
Utah State offensive coordinator Kevin McGiven. And Coach, let me just first ask you about the nickname that I keep hearing from the players, Mac G. Your reaction to that nickname?
Yeah, I love it that there's that comfort level. I've been called a lot of things in my life, but the staff really started calling me that here. It started with really Coach McGee. Played for me at Montana State, and so he always called me Mac G. He was calling me that right when the staff got together. That kind of stuck with the rest of the staff and then resonated with the players, and so so that's my name now around the building. So.
What's similar or what's different about your time here in Logan, because this is not your first time here? So what are some of the things that are similar, and what's different about this go around for the Utah State Aggies?
Yeah, well, I think the similarities are the place. Just with what Logan represents, with what Cache Valley represents, with what Utah State University, the type of player and the type of kid that you get here, that you get to coach on a daily basis. Those things are special. Those things have captured my heart. Differences are really Coach Mendenhall, the culture that he's instilling and helping these guys become. And it was really easy for me to align with Coach Mendenhall in terms of what his beliefs are in developing young men and still doing it for the right reasons. Where some of the directions and the trajectory of college football and still doing it for young men. So
the offense seems to really be clicking these last 2 games. What's different about the offense right now?
Kids have been working really hard. Since last spring, they've really bought in. Execution level is getting better, chemistry is getting better, communication is getting better. We're still looking for a level of consistency that hasn't quite been there. The numbers have been pretty good, but I think all the guys would tell you that there's a lot more out there for us, and obviously with a tough opponent coming up and going into some tough opponents in conference play, we still need to get a level of consistency that we haven't obtained yet. So.
You've been able to throw a lot of different offensive sets out there using similar personnel. Just some of the creativity there and what that does to opposing defenses. I guess talk a little bit about the versatility that you're seeing so far with the guys you've got on offense.
Yeah, I think really that was one of the things that just when I got here and seeing the personnel and the ability to get the versatility of the backs, the versatility of the tight ends, you always start your system and put it in place based on the quarterback skill set, and so his skill set combined with versatility of the different personnel groups, I said, okay, we could probably do a lot of things, in terms of getting in different personnel groups, formationing, shift in motion, and so what it really is us trying to be able to dictate to the defense and not so much the defense dictating to us, in terms of how they play, and so his becoming a weapon for us in terms of keeping people off balance.
And then with that, there's just in some of the conversations I've had over the years with coordinators or coaches, there seems to be this balance earlier in the year of throwing a lot of stuff out there so opponents have to spend more time evaluating film versus we want to hold things out so we can surprise opponents they've never seen this before. It seems like so far you guys are throwing a lot out there, making opponents have to go through a lot of extra film.
Yeah, no, I think that's part of it. And we want to be have a high level of execution in anything we do. So, not necessarily just about throwing it out there, but we're not in a position to hold anything back. We're going to go in every game, and it's we're going to shoot all of our bullets. And so. So that's what you've seen up to this point in terms of showing people that. Now, yes, giving them a lot to practice along the way. If they have to spend a lot of time on certain things and it detracts from other areas, then hopefully that helps us out.
This is another SEC road game for your team. Just some of the lessons learned from the last time. Went to facing Texas A&M. Now you get to go and do something similar and get on the road again and face another top 25 opponent on the road. So what are some of the lessons learned last time that will help you guys for this game?
I think being ready for a faster start. It took us a while to get going, and we had a scoring drive early in that game, but then really didn't do a whole lot in the first half, and but it was a slow start, and I don't know if the moment was too big, but we kind of figured out as we went along that we belonged and that we could play with them, and went into halftime, and we were the team was challenged by Coach Mendenhall and came out and responded and had a much better second half, and looked for a lot of that second half like we belonged there. And so I think they gained confidence from what they were able to do against an SEC opponent, but also that they need to go in and they need to be ready to go to start faster.
Vanderbilt, just looking at them, they've got a pretty high-powered offense. They're scoring a lot of points. Does that put pressure on you to try to keep up with that?
We're always looking to play complementary football, so for me, it's whatever it takes to win. And we understand that their offense is putting up points. Our defense is going to have a great plan to stop those guys or slow those guys down. And the bottom line is, regardless of what it looks like, is we have to be able to match and then exceed that on our side of the ball. Make sure that we're doing our part to play complementary football.
They also look like they have a very strong and efficient defense. Like, what do you see out of them that makes them so strong so far in the early season?
Yeah, really sound. I would kind of correlate it to our defense. Maybe a little bit more vanilla, but really good at what they do. Really sound, play really, really hard. To me, it's a cultural defense where they don't really show you a lot until you get to situational football. Third downs, red zone, stuff like that, where you see a little bit more to their package, but they're really, really good at what they do, really well coached.
Then last question, Coach Mendenhall has a son on the team. Coach Nick Howell has a son on the team. You've got a son on the team. What's that experience been like for you and these coaches with having your sons and your boys here on the football team?
Oh yeah, it's a really cool experience. Just watching them all develop. But it's like who in college football gets to do that? When you got your kid out there on the scout team and he's trying to help your offense get better, and and then he comes in during the day and you get to sit down in your office and have lunch with him or something like that. It's just it's a really unique experience that Coach Mendenhall has allowed to happen, and I think it goes back to our number one guiding principle as a program is family first, last, and always, and he means that sincerely when he says it. So.
Coach, thanks so much and good luck on Saturday.
All right, thanks.
That was Utah State offensive coordinator Kevin McGiven discussing the latest with his team, different things that they're doing, forcing teams to watch more film than they would maybe normally have to, running a bunch of different concepts that are, different and unique, kind of a toned down version of what Air Force makes people do. They make people basically relearn how to play defense. And Utah State basically just making teams, hesitate a little bit because they're like a little unsure exactly, like you got three running backs split out as wide receivers. How are you supposed to cover that and, cover that package? But then the next play when they're running a hurry up, they put those three running backs in the backfield with a tight end. It's like, how do you have the right defense on the field? And some of the players have talked about, and even Coach Mendenhall have talked about, where it's like they just see a bunch of base defense looks. And if you're facing a base defense every time, if you can predict and know what the other guys are running because they have to run their base defense every time, it's like, well, you can attack that. If you know what the defense is running, oh boy, heaven help that defense.
Yeah, and Utah State has a real advantage here where they can have pretty much the same personnel, but put them in different positions and keep rolling with the guys that they have. You might swap out an offensive lineman here or there to keep them fresh, but generally you want to keep they've kept their core in place from play to play, series to series. And sometimes you'll see other teams where okay, if this person goes out, another guy comes in, it's pretty clear he has a specialty, so this is what they're going to do with this package, with this personnel. Utah State doesn't have that. They've got all their personnel there, and they use them in different ways. I'd hate to be a defensive coordinator trying to figure out and plan for Utah State because that personnel is the same, but they can give you so many different looks.
Yeah, and it's when you have that versatility, because there's teams that try to be versatile and they try to do different things, but they may not have the people to do it. But you've got your top two running backs are converted wide receivers. One of your wide receivers is a converted quarterback. It's like all these different things. Then you have tight ends, who tight ends are kind of inherently a position that's meant to be versatile. And you got a guy like Brock Lane who can block and be a receiver.
And will your quarterback drop back and throw it, or will he tuck and run?
Yeah. So it's like there's a bunch of different things they can throw at you. Just they don't even have to throw anybody special in. They don't have to throw in their backup quarterback to do a wildcat or throw in a wide receiver to be a wildcat. They just be like, all right, you're a starting slot receiver. Come play quarterback this rep.
Yeah.
And do something funky. So it's a lot of different looks they can throw at teams, and it causes problems. Maybe Vanderbilt, they've got 4 weeks to look at. Have they burned enough tape to prepare for the Aggies? We got to take a break. We'll come back. We got a text on the Full Court Press text line, so we'll get to that as well, along with hearing from Utah State's defensive coordinator, Nick Howell, whom Eric had a chance to talk to yesterday. So that's next here on the Full Court Press.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice. When it comes to home care, it's important for you to know you do have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of home care services, remember Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient, not the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Call for a free home safety evaluation, 787-1369, and visit primrosecare.com. Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
From small homes to large businesses, Mountain Valley Heating and Air has you covered. Their team specializes in both residential and commercial services. When you choose Mountain Valley, you're choosing a full team ready to handle every detail, every time, so you and your business can always feel the love. Tune-ups, installations, or emergency service, whatever you need, we're here. Feel the love with Mountain Valley Heating and Air. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com.
New news from the Riverwoods Conference Center. All-inclusive pricing is now available for every occasion. Imagine your dream wedding, your daughter's quinceañera, corporate retreats, family parties, business conferences, or expos. Whether you're searching for a small private area, a breathtaking outdoor reception by the river, or an event that accommodates up to 2,000 people, the Riverwoods Conference Center makes event planning effortless with its perfect combination of beauty, service, catering, and now all-inclusive pricing. Visit theriverwoods.com or call 750-5151 for more information today.
At Top Shed, it's more than just storage. It's style built to last. Simple storage sheds to backyard retreats or the perfect chicken coop. Top Shed has you covered. Custom built with premium materials designed for durability. We'll build right on site in places like Brigham City, Smithfield, Montpelier, and beyond. Don't wait. Late summer and fall are the best time to design, build, and deliver for year-round use. Top Shed, making sheds great again. Call 435-760-7766 or visit topshedusa.com.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back into the Full Court Press. And a reminder, Young Power Sports of Logan is already geared up for winter. Don't wait for the snow. Get ready now with blowout pricing on Polaris and Ski-Doo snowmobiles up to $4,000 off MSRP. The largest clim and winter gear showroom in northern Utah, Idaho, and Wyoming. They got jackets, helmets, boots, everything you need to ride in comfort and style. Snowplows, enclosed side-by-sides, huge selections on site, ready to roll. They got transparent pricing, including all dealer fees. There are no surprises, just great deals and gear built for adventure. Young Power Sports of Logan, your headquarters for winter fun. Let's ride. All right, so speaking of riding, we got Utah State football. I got a big ride up this weekend to Vanderbilt, or I guess flight. They're not really riding there.
It's a flight. The equipment truck is on the way.
Yeah, it's already been on its way.
They left earlier today. But yeah, this is a big challenge. Another top 25 team, another SEC team in their house. Some similarities, Texas A&M to Vanderbilt, in that both are ranked, both have mobile quarterbacks. I think the biggest difference is that Texas A&M had some outstanding electric wide receivers. I don't see that from Vanderbilt. Vandy has a really good tight end. He leads the team in receptions, but I see more big play potential out of Texas A&M than what I'm seeing out of Vanderbilt so far.
Yeah. Vanderbilt can still move the ball, but they're going to do it in just kind of a different way.
Right, yes.
And hopefully Utah State will be able to handle that a little bit more, where they weren't really able to handle the speed of Texas A&M's skill position players. I want to get to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line before we jump into this interview you did with Nick Howell. 5338 commenting on Kevin McGiven's nickname, Mac G. He says, Mac G? Why not Big Mac G? I think sometimes they call him
that's the evolution.
I think sometimes they call him Big Mac G, but mostly is big. Not. It's just kind of an adjective that it's not really part of the nickname. So we got Big Mac G over there.
Yeah,
maybe
Mac
they've
G.
said that, but they refer to him as Mac G. So I have to figure out whether or not I need to transcribe that differently when putting it into quotes. Do I just say Kevin McGiven? Because not everybody's going to know his nickname is Mac G. It's like, who's that? And then 2444, a bit off topic here, but asking, when is/was the first official men's basketball practice for the season? And will either of you be visiting practice and doing any additional player interviews anytime soon? I think as far as like official fall, like preseason camp practice, I don't think those have started.
I think Monday was the first day.
Was it?
Monday or Tuesday, teams across the country could start having their official practices again.
Yeah, so we'll see if they have any open practices. I think men's basketball have kept their practices mainly closed outside of some of the open ones they've done. They've done a few that are open like mainly to the media. They've done some that are open entirely to the public. They'll likely do another one of those, but they've also got some scrimmages or exhibitions that are going to be open. So there'll be times to see them, and I think we'll have a chance to talk to some of the players and coaches again. We haven't had an interview the last couple of weeks because last week they just couldn't get somebody lined up for our time slot. Just didn't quite work out with the.
Yeah, they had kind of a down period.
Yeah, so it was just kind of a timing thing.
Coach Calhoun was there today.
Yeah,
saw a couple of the players who were there today to support and see Cam Walker be introduced.
Yeah, and that was why we don't have someone here today. It's just because they were like, a lot of news with Cam Walker. Let's postpone another week. Right. And I was like,
we got plenty to discuss.
That's fine. It's perfectly fine to not have one this week. But we will continue to have interviews. Either we can do post-practice interview or, again, more interviews on our show. We've talked to a lot of the players already. There's not too many we haven't talked to at this point. So it might just be a who haven't we talked to question at this point.
It'll come.
We might have Coach Calhoun on the show once again since we haven't talked to him in a minute. So specifically on the show at least.
5773 on the Young Power Sports Logan text line. UNLV held their first practice this morning. Okay, so yeah, it's this week.
Yeah, I'll have to ask and see what they've got because I'd like to go at least have some availability with Coach since we haven't talked to him in a minute, even though we've talked to a few of their players. But speaking of talking to coaches, it's mentioned Eric had a chance to talk to the Aggies defensive coordinator yesterday. Nope, I keep turning the button off. Let's try that again.
Utah State defensive coordinator Nick Howell, and got to start with the obvious, the opportunity to go back to Vanderbilt. You were there in 2022 and 2023. Just your experience getting there. Let's start with that. Just what drew you to Vanderbilt and be a part of their program?
Coach Mendenhall had a connection with Coach Lee when he was, taking a break, and Coach Lee took a chance on me, and I ended up there, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
When you see where they are now compared to where they were then, like it seems like this is a team that could fight to be in contention for the SEC championship this year. Just comment on just the trajectory that this Vanderbilt team has been on the last few years.
Just happy for those guys. Like I think Clark has showed like some toughness and grit and resiliency to stay in there. He believes in that program. He's been through some dark times there, but he's an alumni. Their coaching staff, their organization, you have a lot of people there that believe in what they're doing, and they've found some answers, and it's over time. And I'm just happy for them. It's a cool deal. Good for them.
Obviously, you have a relationship with him, with the head coach. But in today's world of college football, there's a lot of turnover with assistants, with players too. But how many players or people are still there from when you were there?
Oh, there's quite a few, and just good people there. I'm grateful for those guys, for the opportunity that I had there. Have a lot of friends there. They treated me and my family exceptionally well. I learned so much there. There's players on the roster that, either helped recruit or coached, and so it's fun to see those guys, having success, and it's cool. So just grateful for the opportunity that I had there. It was awesome.
Let's talk about their team a little bit more. They've got a pretty high-powered offense. They've been able to score a lot of points. They've got a mobile, dynamic quarterback in Diego Pavia. How similar or how different is he from Bryson Barnes and what you guys see every week in practice?
Well, I think there's some similarities, but there's also some differences as well. I think both guys are, scrappy and tough, and shows up on tape. You can see that they lead their team. I respect their system and him, and they just do a really good job. No play's never dead. Something's always alive. He can always make something happen. So, if you're on a team like that, our team or their team, you like your quarterback and you respect your opponent, and you see that it's going to be a big challenge. Yeah.
he leads the team in rushing. But what do you see besides him in the running attack for Vanderbilt?
Man, I mean, they have great QB designed run that's really hard to stop. He is fearless in those and aggressive. I think that their QB draw game is exceptional. It's, you're feeling pass and all of a sudden it's like a pass run option and he's out in space. When he scrambles, he does a great job of staying alive, ball fake, jukes guys, gets to the sideline. So, he has stuff that they call, which is great. And then they have the unscripted stuff, which is probably as challenging or more. So it's good stuff.
Then their leading receiver is their big tight end. Like, what are you seeing out of him and what he brings to their offense?
He's a good player. I think that schematically, they do a really good job of getting him the ball in hard places. They challenge your eye control, and then all of a sudden that dude is open, and then he's big and fast. And so once he catches the ball, he can make stuff happen with his legs.
We're gearing up for Game 5 of the season. So how would you assess the progress of your defense?
I mean, I'm pleased so far. I think that these guys have really bought in. I think that they're creating an identity. The Texas A&M game probably, is the one that we look at and we're not pleased with. Myself more than anybody. But if you look at the UTEP game and the Air Force game and the last game against McNeese, just the ability to eliminate explosive plays and play really hard and passionate, and assignment sounds really good.
The run defense for Utah State has really seen some major improvements. Coach Mendenhall kind of referred to the benefit of having Air Force early, which kind of forced you guys to address some of that. What are some of the other things that you're seeing in how this defense is handling running teams that have had some success running the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I think players play fast when they know what to do, and these guys are starting to feel comfortable in certain things, and they're playing really fast, and they have the right mindset. And so, I think it's just they've progressed over time and understand what to do and kept leverage and own our gaps and see pullers and all those types of things, and it's all helped a lot.
Besides your personal familiarity with Vanderbilt, this is a team that now has had an experience of going on the road against an SEC team already this season, chance to do that again this week. What are some of the lessons you think the team learned most about getting ready for this kind of competition?
Well, I think it's like just playing to an identity, believing to yourself. Not, we self-destructed in a lot of ways at Texas A&M, and not sizing up competition, like just going and playing. Like these dudes are all 18 to whatever, how old they are, years old, and we all play football. Everyone's got a scheme. There's 11 players on the field for us and them, and just go play. And I think that we hesitated a little bit at Texas A&M, and our identity wasn't, as clear as it is now. So.
Then lastly, Coach Mendenhall has a son on the team. Coach McGiven has a son on the team. You've got a son on the team. Just that dynamic of you guys as parents, but also as coaches.
It's fun. Like if he ever screws up or makes a play, I always say that's Brooks' son. I try not to coach him too much, but honestly, outside the football, just being in the office with him every day, like just being able to see him travel, home games, all that stuff. I watch him on special teams here and there, watching him develop in the weight room, like mindset, toughness, all that type of stuff. It's good. Those kids, they were raised different. There's a different level of knowing what you want to have happen, and so it rubs off, not talent or skill or anything like that, but more like mindset, and it's been good. It's been fun.
Awesome. Well, Coach Howell, thanks so much, and good luck on Saturday.
Appreciate it. All right.
Again, that's Utah State defensive coordinator Nick Howell talking about a host of different topics, including about how it seems like every coach has a son on the team, seemingly.
Yeah, I mean, the three highest level coaches, your head coach and your coordinators, they all have sons playing on the team right now. I mean, they have roles that they're playing. They're not starters. They're not really rotation guys.
And you're not playing like daddy ball or whatever it's called or whatever.
No,
it's just like
there doesn't appear to be nepotism going on. But
yeah.
But they're on the team, and I thought it was interesting to hear Coach McGiven talk about it, how he's proud of his son and how he helps prepare the team for their opponents because he's on the scout team, and so that's an important role. Your team has a lot of different roles, and how even those scout team guys, the role that they play is so vitally important to help prepare the team for their upcoming opponent. How well do they understand their role, their job, and scouting the opponent, replicating how they play and how they act, so that the team is ready for when that ball goes up in the air and it's game time.
Of course, the Howell family, they've got some deeper involvement because Chris Howell, who I suddenly forget his exact relation. Was he a younger brother or like a cousin? I think he's a cousin.
I think he's a cousin
of Nick, the old Skyview coach, obviously. So
yeah, as a defensive analyst at Utah State.
Yeah, so a lot of Howells among the Aggies. Kind of like how there's a lot of Walkers around here.
That's right.
Apparently, we all the families come in groups. So we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of college basketball. Some minor controversy with one player being granted eligibility. Doesn't have much to do with the Aggies, but it's an interesting topic. But then we'll also talk about the Aggies, where they're going to be playing in the Delta Center, or as Eric would just call it, Delta Center.
Delta Center.
It's the Aggies will be playing there. Some more information about that whole afternoon, evening, maybe even morning of basketball to be played at the Delta Center. That's coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Hi friends, this is Lydia at the Sportsman on Main Street, inviting you to check out our new fall arrivals. For women, this is our first season carrying Free People movement, and you will love it. We also have great fresh looks from Viore, Pendleton, Cool, and Birkenstock. At the Sportsman, we try really hard to find unique products. For the men, you will love our new shirts, jackets, sweaters, and pants from Cool, Fjallraven, Viore, and Pendleton. From colognes and perfumes to skis, we've got you covered. Come and see us at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan and look amazing this fall.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
Hi, this is Brooke Stevenson.
Ty Smith.
And David Castor with Adams Wealth Advisors. We're truly honored to be named Best of Northern Utah Gold winner for the Best Financial Planner. This community means everything to us, and we're grateful for every customer who made this possible. Thank you for your trust.
Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Tom and Levi.
Tom is the smartest man I know. He's been a professor at 2 major universities, been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, he told me that he was having problems in his classes. I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. And he was telling them that he was doing it as a favor to them, but I think in reality, he just wanted to get out of there. I was really starting to worry because I saw something was wrong.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me, and my love for him was just immense.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back into the Full Court Press as we wrap things up here on a Wednesday. I know everyone wants to go for 3 hours, but we're going for 2 hours. I've still got like a whole article to write, and Eric's got to go edit some audio, and we're still going to be here for another couple hours.
We got things to do.
It's a late night for us. But a few more things to touch on. After all the talk of Cameron Walker and Utah State, I know we kind of teased him about giving Utah State advice for beating Vanderbilt. Tennessee beat Vanderbilt last year 36-23 on the football field. I think both teams were ranked at some point last year, although when they played, Vanderbilt wasn't ranked. But one thing that was interesting, this came out yesterday or a couple of days ago, where Thierry Darlan, a former G League Ignite player, has been ruled eligible by the NCAA to play college basketball, and he's playing for Santa Clara. So this is a guy who played essentially professional basketball. The difference kind of being he wasn't like in the G League. He was playing for the G League Ignite team, which is, for one, I think this last year was its last season, or like it's over now. They're not doing it anymore, because basically an alternate path for like potential one and done prospects to go there. You saw guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green. Those were players who went to the G League Ignite. There were some high-profile guys initially, and it kind of tapered off a little bit. Like once NIL started to hit, G League Ignite kind of just went away, because the whole point was you get paid like a professional, develop like a professional, get NBA-level coaching, but then
you don't have to bother with all that going to class and whatnot.
Yeah, but with the amount of money the athletes are able to make, especially if you're like that one and done, the kind of player who's supposed to be potentially considering G League Ignite, that player was getting millions of dollars from college teams. And then it's chance to build your brand and all that. So G League Ignite is going away largely because of that. But you have a player who, again, played professional basketball, but the NCAA says, well, since it's G League Ignite, and I don't know the exact logic there, but I think that just kind of has to be it, where it's like, is G League Ignite, like if they played for a G League team that's basically signing with an NBA team, they probably wouldn't have gone for it. But with it being this Ignite team, this essentially amateur G League team, I think that kind of ended up being the difference there.
Well, also there's a difference where there are players who play professionally in Europe as young players, because they will sign players to professional contracts as young as 16. Luka Doncic was playing professionally at like 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
But there's been an influx of players who play the way they play and get quality experiences to have these signed contracts with professional teams at young ages, and that's how they're playing. They don't really have the same level of high school to college infrastructure like we have in America. So they play professionally for some of these club teams, and then they get recruited to come play for college teams. So this has been happening in Europe, where guys are playing professionally. And we can argue about the degree of how professional that really is or not, but they have professional contracts. And then they're being recruited to come play in America, to play at college levels, which is at a higher, more professional, a higher competitive level. And so this has been happening. And so what difference is there really to what's happening there to what happened with somebody who signed initially with G League Ignite and decides, well, I'm not getting that same level of competitive development and week in and week out competitive nature on the court. So why wouldn't it apply to him as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually got this wrong, because I thought it had just been the G League Ignite, because that was 2 years ago. Because he actually also played with the Delaware Blue Coats, which I think is just a straight up affiliate of somebody. I hadn't realized, I hadn't read that part of it. So not only was it the G League, but it was like just straight up a G League player. So that adds a new wrinkle I hadn't considered. But I think your point still stands there, where, look, guys are signing professional contracts with, sub NBA, level leagues, which that's what the G League is. It's the G League in terms of talent and competitive level is, I think, largely on par with most of Europe, where it's like you have a lot of really good players, most of whom just aren't quite good enough to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I guess that's that same kind of thing where it's like, look, guys sign professional contracts and then they come play college ball. It's just the way it is.
And he hadn't officially declared and signed all the paperwork for the NBA draft.
Like he declared for the NBA draft, but then he pulled out.
He withdrew. So he still has eligibility. So treat it like such.
So I guess it must have just been that they felt like it didn't rise to like this level of professional that they would normally declare you ineligible for. And I think that's the main thing. I think a lot of people are freaking out about it, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
It's like it's a college-age kid signing with a college to play college ball.
Especially with what we're seeing with international players.
Yeah, it's like it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. So we'll see if there are any further steps. I think another thing to watch for is like players who declare for the draft, stay in it, and get undrafted. Does the NCAA eventually let them come back? I think that's not going to be as much of a problem, but it's something to keep an eye on. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to check us out on our podcast feed, and also make sure you can catch us live again on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan, 1069 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.